Welcome to Pet Sitter Confessional, an open and honest discussion about life as a pet sitter. Today we're brought to you by our friends at Time to Pet and Pet Perennials. How do we build a sustainable business? We manage our stress and we seek after sustainable success. Running and operating a business is not a sprint. It's a long-term marathon that we have to have an eye towards. So today, we're really excited to have Wendy Mackay, founder and owner of Pet Sitters Nelson, on the show to talk about her 20-year-long journey in pet sitting, how she's overcome obstacles, both health and business, along the way, and how she maintains an attitude of positivity and looking towards the future and expecting the best. Let's get started.
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be speaking with you today. So I'm originally from Nottingham in England, and I fell in love with Nelson, the top of the South Island in New Zealand, about 22 years ago, and decided this is where I want to live, and made it happen.
How did you find that place of all places in the world? Were you vacationing there? Have you just heard about it? How did you land in Nelson?
Yeah, so I was backpacking. So I did like Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and I just got to this spot, a little small city, and lots of sunshine, beautiful climate, lovely people. And I was like, yeah, this is better than where I currently live.
So you settled down in New Zealand 22 years ago. When did you start doing pet sitting and starting your business?
It wasn't too long after that. So basically, I was working as a horse trek guide. And with Nelson being a very seasonal city, I needed to find some additional work. And I was flatting with a girl at the time who showed Samoyeds, and also told me that she feeds the neighbors' pets for about $6 when they go away on holiday. And because her showing dogs was taking up a lot of her time, she didn't really have time to do the pet sitting. And would I be interested in taking it over? And I thought, yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. It took an outside person to say, kind of loop you into this.
Yes, well, it was really new. Like it was, nothing like this was happening in New Zealand. Back in England, I'd done a little bit of house sitting for my friends and their pets. But yeah, once I started researching pet sitting, it was amazing. There was suddenly in the whole industry that I was unaware of, like in America. So I just took it from there. Not one of her clients booked with me. So it was really a case of, starting from scratch with creating flyers, business cards, going around to the local vet clinics and groomers, and just getting my name out there.
Was it widely received pretty quickly back when you started?
I did have some immediate interest because of the novelty, I believe. But there wasn't, kind of enough to, suddenly, take it to that stage where I didn't need another income. So I did actually take a job as a conference organizer. And after a falling out with my boss about a year later and quit my job, I started to think, what am I going to do now? My husband wasn't best pleased with me. And then I thought, well, I've got this pet sitting business that's just, a bit here and a bit there. What if I was to dedicate 100% to it? And maybe it would give me enough to get by on.
I love that, because that's exactly where, it wasn't exactly where my Megan and I found ourselves, but we had that same question of, what if I dedicated 100% of my time to this? And because we were doing our business on the side and kind of doing it a little bit before and after my full-time job, and really started to have those questions of going, well, instead of me dedicating 8, 9, 10 hours a day to somebody else, what if I dedicated that to me. And that was the first time I ever really had that kind of frame of reference of going, well,
Yeah.
what if I just did something? And I don't really know what got me thinking about it in that context of going, what if I kind of reclaimed my time?
Mm, absolutely. There's a lot, it's, very rewarding, having your own business and you're kind of being in control of your own schedule. I know that can be tricky for pet sitters. Uh, but the reality is, yes, we are in control. We sometimes just forget that.
I need reminding on a daily basis sometimes that
Yeah.
no, I put the things on the schedule. What did I do to
Yes.
myself?
I can't blame anybody else.
I know that's the one downside of going into your own business. You have no one else to blame.
Absolutely.
So you decided to go full time and dedicate yourself to this. How did what did that time look like? How was that different from when you were going and putting up flyers and going and talking to vets and stuff? What was different about the intentionality that you were doing when you decided to do it full time?
I think it was possibly a mindset change. Basically, no, I had to earn an income myself. There was no option to not succeed. I had to do it. So I continued going around all the, making myself more known out there, making sure that if I met people when I was walking dogs, that I'd talk to them, give them a business card. I was involved in community events as well back then and actually set up some of my own fundraising events to get my name out there, including a pet parade and fashion show. Um, that was the days when I had a lot more time and energy, but it was good fun. It was really good fun,
Uh-huh.
and there was just more community events with animals at that time, so it was quite easy for me to be able to get on board with that, um, and just getting out there in the community. But I do recall and it just started with one dog that needed walking at midday. I wasn't even really offering dog walking services. It was just a lady contacted me and said, "Hey, can you walk my dog Mac twice a week for me, Tuesday and Thursday?" It's like, sure. So I do that in my lunch break. And then, I just get another one like, oh, hang on, I could walk these two dogs together because they live near each other. And it kind of just grew from there. And then people would ask me, they'd see me walking, kind of 4 or 5 dogs. And they'd be like, are they all yours? I'm like, no, no, I'm a dog walker. And people would say, do people actually pay you to walk their dogs? I was like, yeah. So yeah, it was quite a new thing in New Zealand for sure.
Well, and I love hearing the organic nature of that and really the foundation of it being let me go talk to people, right? Like let me
Mm,
go get involved in the community and have a presence. I know
yeah,
that's something that we struggle with as a service-based business. Like we don't have a brick and mortar. We don't have a place that people drive by. We don't have that kind of physical presence in our communities. And so we can often struggle to go, how do I get people to remember me? How do I get people to know who I am and that I'm here? Go to
yeah.
community events. I love that you started your own, right? So you started the fashion shows for the
Yeah.
dogs?
It was just the one, and it was,
Oh,
yes, it was a real it was a lot of fun and quite a good turnout as well. And then I had one of the local vets like MC the event as well, and then we got the radio station down, the press down, and then we have this annual Santa parade for all the kids. So we took part in that a couple of years. Um, yeah, so it was real good. We hope to like do it again in the future. But at this stage, there was just we want to have our own float so we can have a big stage with all the dogs and doing it that way rather than just walking a load of dogs down the road with yeah, lots of people around.
yeah. Well, and you even mentioned how, you couldn't do that kind of thing with your time and energy now. And I think that's important to remember that our business has this ebbs and flows, and we have to know what we can commit to and what we can really say
Yep.
yes to. And that it's really important that we are cognizant and hyper aware of our limitations. I know that it's kind of one of those things of going, oh, hey, it's a slow time. Man, I can really dedicate myself to my marketing and going and talking to people, and you can really pick up that pace. But then when you get busy, at least I feel bad whenever I'm not out talking to people and doing that stuff when we're busy, but I have to remind myself of going, well, I have to choose one or the other. I can't be 100% for everything that's on my plate. I do have to ebb
Yes,
and flow and know what I can commit to.
that's right. Otherwise, you end up, not being in, not doing anything great. You can't split yourself, in so many ways. You've only got 100%. And so you can't give 100% to everything. That's the way I see it.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so,
we just had to sit down and make a decision was whether we were going to commit to a few of these little events this year in our community. And we have some ideas of what we want to be doing. And at the end of the day, Megan and I were going, we just can't, I cannot guarantee 100% for this event. And because I can't show up at 100% and guarantee 100%, I can't do it. Like we shouldn't show up at 80% or 50% as a business because that's not how I want to represent ourselves. And I also don't want to overextend and end up not being able to show up at all. And that was
yes.
a tough decision for us, especially when we're in this mindset of, oh, we've got to grow, I need to be more present, I need to be doing all this stuff. To also realize if I can't do this at 100%, I shouldn't be doing this at all.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just giving yourself that bit of room to breathe,
Mm.
instead of trying to take everything on, and which can have, the opposite effect of what you want if you burn yourself out. And it's easily done.
Yeah. Did you have you ever struggled with burnout and being overcommitted?
Yes, many times. I think like a lot of people in this industry, we find it hard to say no. We don't want to let people down. So therefore, and we've got our favorite clients as well. And it's like, oh yeah, I can just squeeze that one in. Sammy's my favorite. It's just another, half an hour here, and well, this one's a little bit further in this direction, but that's okay. They've been a customer for a long time. I'll just do that little bit of extra here and there, and before you know it, you're working, 7 days a week. You're not seeing as much of your friends or family, and that can be a real bummer, and you sometimes don't realize until you get sick.
Yeah, that's man. Well, and then it's kind of your body forces you to stop, right? Like you can't
Yeah.
outwork your body and its wellness, and there will always be a limitation. And I have those moments of going, oh, I don't have the time to stop and rest right now. And then I remember,
Mm.
right, but my body is going to force me to rest, and those
Yes.
never happen at convenient times, right? Like
No, absolutely. You can guarantee it.
so when you started, you said you weren't offering the dog walks. When did you start regularly promoting and you're trying to grow those group dog walks that you do?
I did some kind of separate advertising just at, again, vet clinics, and things like that. At that point, I started to do, some video clips, and it was because Nelson's a small city as well. There's a lot of word of mouth. There'll be neighbours that'll see us picking up their dog, and they'll be interested. And then probably sign writing on the vehicles was a big one.
Oh.
And people it was all such a novelty, and people were like, "Oh wow, this is like really cool. What a good idea." And it just started to grow and grow, and it started with just having dogs on half an hour walks, and then we eventually got to people wanting 1 hour walks. So then we'd actually put them on 2 half-an-hour walks, like morning and afternoon, and we'd be driving around picking up the other dogs in the meantime. And now we're at the stage where it's mostly 1 hour walks that people do want.
And are those your doggy day outs? Is that what those 1 hours are?
Yes, that's right. Yes, so we'll do. Yeah, so now the way we structure it is we'll do the 1 hour walk in the morning, and then we'll drop the dogs back home, and then we'll pick up the dogs for the half an hour walk in the afternoon, and that works quite well because a lot of people here, they've perhaps got families. So a lot of people might be finished work by 3 o'clock. So they kind of want their dogs back by then. Um, so it's kind of a bit tricky to fit all the dogs into that time frame. And there's times when, yes, things have gone a little bit sideways, and then the dogs aren't back. It's 4 o'clock and we're getting phone calls. Is everything okay? Where's our dog? Like, yes, it's fine. It's just, we're running a bit behind schedule. Some things happen. So, yeah.
I love that setup of you're picking the same dog up in the morning as you are in the afternoon, but you're splitting their day with that activity. And I think that's really ingenious because it means that you don't have to have a place to keep the dogs at during the day and be doing a doggy daycare or a dog sitting kind of thing in another location or facility. The dogs can go be back home, rest up, and then they get another excursion in the afternoon. I think that's really cool.
So with that, it's mainly so it's usually different dogs we have going in the morning to the afternoon. But we do have a full day option as well. So that's where we will keep the dogs in the van, and they'll be with us to drop off dogs and pick the next group up. So they're with us. So it's like a mobile kind of doggy daycare.
Okay. So I had misunderstood.
Yeah.
I think, okay, that's cool too, right? Where you're kind of keeping the group together if they want that second outing, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. So it really is a full day out exploring and having fun.
Yes. Yeah, and there can be quite a lot of logistics, with where the different dogs live and different walkers, and then you have, situation like, oh, this dog doesn't like this one, and this dog can't go to a grassy area because it has allergies. So there's a lot of logistics involved as well in all of it. Challenging.
Well, and you're taking these to a third party, a location, right, where you're taking them, and are they running off lead or are you doing on leash hikes?
Yeah, so they're all off leash. We do have like younger dogs we have on long leashes and things like that. So in the paddocks we rent, 2 paddocks, so we can take bigger groups of dogs. They're fully fenced, so we have that added security of them not disappearing on us. Without them having to be, have 100% recall, which means we can take those dogs that are younger and, not even that well behaved. We can put them in a safe area, and then we can work with them and really work on that recall and just help with their training and behavior management.
Yeah, without that extra stress of whether they're just going to disappear into the woods, right?
Yes,
no, there's a fence.
Yep. So we do go to the beach and some parks as well, with the dogs that have good recall. But, being in an environment that's, you've got the public to deal with, their dogs, you've got all sorts of, animals to deal with. It can be quite stressful. And so the paddocks are a great way of just getting the dogs off leash, running around, having a great time without all the stress of being in a natural environment in a public space.
Well, and I love the development of this service too, of how you said you started off with the standard 30-minute and people were asking for more, and then it developed into something completely else entirely, right? With this new doggy day out, concept of what you're doing here. Did you develop that through feedback from your clients, or is this an opening or thing that you thought would be interesting to offer?
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's one of those situations where it's like, what can I do? And it's sometimes, this is what I'm dealing with. And, so sometimes it's just even stepping away, having and all of a sudden you just start to get some ideas. When you're not actively trying to think about it, you sometimes, if you're too bogged down and trying to deal with the situation, you're just not getting any answers. So sometimes it's like stepping away, getting outdoors, have some fresh air, and then letting the ideas kind of flow. And what if we were to try this? It could work. What if we were to do this? And then you just sell it to the customers, and off you go.
And I really appreciate that you just spoke about the necessity of finding breaks and stepping back And I think too often we can think, what I have to do in order to solve this problem is I just need to work harder, right? I need to think about this more. I need to dedicate more time to this. I need to lock myself in a room and really focus on this and force myself to be creative and come up with these ideas when nothing could be further from the truth, right? What it does take is stepping back and relaxing, clearing our mind, having some quiet in our day. How often do we not have quiet in our day and enough space to really think and or just not think, right? It seems very counterintuitive, but having that time to step away from it, step away from the problem, get rest, regain focus really does help when we need to step back in and re-look at this problem, because I find it helps me show back up with fresh eyes and a fresh mind, and go, okay, well, after some rest, what do I see now? And really going from there. Have you heard of Time to Pet? Dan from NYC Pooch has this to say.
Time to Pet has been a total game changer for us. It helped us streamline many aspects of our operation, from scheduling and communication to billing and customer management. We actually tested other pet sitting softwares in the past, but these other solutions were clunky and riddled with problems. Everything in Time to Pet has been so well thought out. It's intuitive, feature-rich, and it's always improving.
If you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of our show will save 50% off your first 3 months by visiting timetopet.com/confessional. So how would you describe you talked a little bit about how, your services are a novelty in the beginning and you worked to grow the awareness. And a lot of that was from the community events and just being present in the community and being seen as something that was new and interesting. What's the current pet care market like in Nelson and in New Zealand?
It's definitely growing. It's I think because of since COVID, there's been quite a bit of a change. So there's lots more pet sitters and dog walkers out there. And that makes it a little bit more challenging trying to get that larger customer base, because people are trying to save money in different ways that they can, and also low wages, as you call it, sunshine wages here, that people are paid, because the wages are notoriously low because we live in such a beautiful area. So again, a lot of people don't have that income, or there's lots of retired people that live here, or families. So one person might not be working full time, so it's a little bit different to the cities where you're more career driven, where the pet care is number one priority. Like you'd have your dogs, if you lived in Auckland, you might have your dog going out 5 times a week. Most of our clients here, they just have their dog going out once a week because that's all they can afford, or it might be twice a week. So it is tricky like that, but in some ways I see that as good, because it means if you lose a client, you've only got to replace 1 or 2 days, not 5 days, right?
Right.
And so that is one way to look at after it. And also, if you're also putting your rates up, it's like, well, that dog only goes out once a week, so it's not going to make too much difference, right, to them. It's not going to be a huge jump compared to them going out 5 times a week. But I think definitely with the likes of the market's been pretty saturated just recently. So everyone's thinks, oh, what a great idea to be a dog walker or pet sitter, and so we have seen like a bit of a reduction in our home visits and the home stays as well. But sometimes the pet sitting can be quite labor intensive, and unsociable hours. So sometimes just having a bit of a break from that, having a slightly smaller schedule is a good thing. And I've been in this business long enough now to know that it comes in ebbs and waves, and don't freak out just because you're having a quiet period. It's like it will, if you continue to work doing what you're doing, providing excellent customer service, it will pick up again, and all of a sudden you'll be like, where did all my time go? How am I like this again?
Right. Yeah. Because it's so how quickly we forget of what it can be like, and how we can go months of being absolutely slammed and it be insane. And then we have a month or two of a dip, and all of a sudden it's the end of the world. Right. And we go,
Yes.
it's never picking up. And then we go right back to being busy, and we're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, what, never mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy the quiet times, get that rest in for yourself. Do the things that, fill your cup and that you really enjoy doing. And get yourself ready for the next season. It's, and
Yeah.
get organized, get all that paperwork that you've been putting off and not dealing with. Do new marketing strategies. Just wait for it to come back.
Well, and to hear that you described the market as saturated, people looking to save money, right? And it really goes to show how you can build your business to be different and flexible, right? And to hear that, I love your mindset around I don't have, clients who are booking me 5 days a week. So that does mean that I have to have more clients on my roster, but any one of them is not a make or break to my business. And I really think that there's a lot of strength to that, of making sure that we as businesses are never wholly and reliant on 1, 2, 3 clients to the success of our business. And that the more that we can disperse that, the more we can have a variety of clients and frequency of use, the stronger we'll actually be ultimately when things do change.
Mm. And it's just working with people's budgets as well, kind of having that flexibility for people that can also make you more appealing than perhaps some other businesses that don't have that flexibility.
Now, when you say flexibility, when are you talking about different pricing structures or different booking requirements? Walk me through that thought.
Yeah, kind of just different pricing structures. Like, for instance, we have the half-hour walk option because, that's good for the older dogs, the smaller dogs, and the people that just don't have the budget for a 1-hour walk. And it means, again, you've got a bigger customer base, and you're also providing a great outing for these little dogs. I love the old dogs as well, right? We've got dogs that are 14 years old coming out, and we have to lift them up in the car, and they just love it. And and the owners, like, I don't want to stop them coming out because we think this is what he's actually holding on for, right? He just loves going out with his mates and seeing you guys, and they can we'll just go over to an area that's just around a bit of woodland, and they can just potter around and have a little sniff, and that makes them happy. It makes the owners happy. So it's really good just being able to provide that service, when sometimes it can be like, oh, is it really worth doing it? But I think it is. Yeah.
Well, oftentimes what we offer as a service, it's actually a very emotional thing for the client, right? As you just said, this outing and exercise, probably the reason they book it as often as they do is because they feel good about what they can give their dog. Right. It's an emotional attachment that they have. They view it as an enrichment for their dog, and they want that. And that's the kind of thing that we can lean into and talk about and share with other people, because that's how people really make purchasing decisions for their dogs, right? They want these things for it, whether it's a necessity for them or not. Like, sure, we can have that argument, but at the 30,000-foot level, it really is, what kind of life does the client want the dog or cat to lead, and how can we help them with that?
Yes. Yeah.
And two, to know that when you talked about having the various and flexibility of the pricing options, I think that that's a really important strategy as businesses, that we don't get too locked into one way or of doing things. I've always had this amount of time for a walk, and that's just kind of walks that I do. And there's one thing for consistency, right? And kind of if we build a reputation around a certain kind of thing, sure, right? That's something. But to always have that question of, Man, what could I do differently? Can I make a more expensive offering or less expensive offering to clients to both attract and hold people's business and attention and loyalty to my business? And how can I attract people and not be, because what we don't want to do, right, is say, well, my 30 minute was $25. Well, now it's going to be $7. Right? We can't do that. We can't make that big of a difference in our pricing. But can we put together a package or have something else like that to at least be in the ballpark or an option for more people?
Definitely. Something I did consider as well is like, some of the retirement villages as well. And, because there's often people with like little dogs around there, to see if I could, get a group going for a place like that. But then I kind of found that I had enough customers anyway, without kind of adding those extra ones in that could be, a bit tricky. But it's also like the pet sitting side of things, especially here, like we have to add, when we've got employees, you have to add public holiday surcharges and things like that. And it can get very expensive to have someone come in to visit your cat twice a day. So what we, kind of saying to people is like, hey, you can get these feeders now, that we're happy to do it like one visit a day, and we can set a feeder so your pets can have, a feed at night, and then we'll, come back the following day. So again, it's saving them money. Again, it means we can have a bigger client base, because we're not doing the same animals, multiple times a day. And it just comes down to budget and understanding that, people don't have a lot of money these days, it's expensive to live.
Yeah. Well, and being sensitive to that. And it is that is an intersection as a business owner that is difficult to navigate, because we have to be sensitive to the fact that cost of living is higher than it's ever been. It raises at such a rapid rate globally, with wages and things really not rising along with it. In most cases. And we as a business owner going, man, well, in order for me to make more money for me to pay my expenses, I either need to get busier or I need to raise prices. But I can't really raise prices a whole lot because people don't have an appetite for that. And so what else can I do, either cost cutting and savings or different kind of models with and options for at least getting the client for the 1 a day visit instead of the 2, at least at something, right? And going, okay, let me get this in and let me focus on different marketing things to kind of grow the client base here to make it more robust and secure. But really finding ways to still serve our clients with excellence while also being sensitive to the fact that they are more price sensitive than ever. I did want you to talk to me about your small pet boarding. I saw this on your website, and I thought it was really fascinating about that you offer this.
Yeah, so that really came about due to me having a guinea pig when I first got to New Zealand, and when I called Tinkerbell.
Aww.
And when I went away, I was like, what am I going to do with him? This was while I was a student, before I started the pet sitting. And there was just nowhere and no one that could take him. So I ended up, asking the vet clinic if he could stay there. And they were happy to take him. They were like, this is the first time we've ever had a guinea pig to boarding. And it was fine, but it really made me think, surely there's a market for this kind of pet care. So when we purchased, I've been doing the pet sitting for about a year or so, and then we purchased our first home. When I got married, we had like a sleep out. It was my office, and then I thought, fantastic, we can actually put some cages for rabbits and guinea pigs in there. We can have birds staying, and it just seemed like a great idea. So so again, it's not a big service. We just have like 5 cages that we use for the night times, the indoor time, and then we've got like 5 runs for them for the daytime, so they can be outside and enjoy being on the grass. But and it's mainly rabbits and guinea pigs we care for that kind of thing. So we have seen a growth in people with rabbits and their pet care. Really going up a couple of notches. But yeah, we only have a small section where we are, so it's kind of pretty challenging trying to separate cats, dogs, rabbits, and keeping them all safe. Yeah, but it's good. It's just a nice little add-on, and again, providing that little bit of an extra service where it's and again, cost-wise as well, it's not feasible for people to have a pet sitter come in twice a day to their home to look after their guinea pig or your budgie. You know, it was really eye-watering at the price that would cost.
Yeah.
But you know, and trying to keep people from using friends, family, neighbors. It's like, no, we can do it for you. You know, your pet's going to be safe, well looked after, and so you know, you're best to book us. You know, instead of just relying on your neighbor.
Yeah, we have a guinea pig client who does book us for 2-day visits, and every time I'm like, man, you are not like this is not me. I couldn't. That's not a service I would I would do. But you know, he finds it really valuable to make sure that his guinea pig gets. It's an older guinea pig, so I think that's another thing. He doesn't want it to be moved around too much and possibly stressed out. So he wants it to have his fresh veggies twice a day. But to know that, as you said, you know, for you, it's not a huge service. It's not, 50, 60, 80% of your business, but it's there, right? And I think that that's also really important as we look at kind of what our businesses are and can be, of going, what mix of services can I offer that's feasible for me, realistic for me, still within my wheelhouse? No one of them has to be the big, the big one in the room. Each little bit contributes and helps. And it also helps you build a reputation for your business too, of what you're known for in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And the vets get to know you as well, for being able to do this kind of service. Because often, people, they will talk to the vets about, I don't know what I'm going to do with, Snowy when I go on holiday. And it's like, well, there is this service available out there for you. So it's really, keeping people informed about what's available too.
Right. Now, earlier you mentioned about growing a team and employees. I was curious, when did you decide or realize, or were you forced to bring somebody on and start growing your team?
Well, I'd seen my parents run a business in the UK, and they could never go on holiday together because someone always had to be there running the business. And I used to try and give them lots of business advice with my wise, teenage head on me. And they never listened. But I knew that if I had a business, I was not going to do it like them. So, I kept trying to encourage them. I was like, your business has grown hugely. You've taken on contractors to fit. They were in a flooring business. You've taken on people to do this. However, you haven't increased the office side of things. You haven't got any extra help. It's just my poor mum trying to manage everything and being snowed under and behind with everything. And I could just see there was so much stress. You couldn't get sick. There was no, holidays were very rare. So I knew with pet sitting being 7 days a week, if I wanted to have any kind of a life, then I needed to get some help. And it just started off, lots of people like, oh, yeah, I'd love to go and visit a cat. And so it started off very basic. And I wouldn't even really make any money on the visits. I would just even, give them what I would earn back then. And then it was like, okay, I need to, now we're getting busier. It's not a part-time job for me anymore. This is my livelihood. Prices need to go up. Taking on employees is a challenge in itself, with all your paperwork, your payroll side of things, tax, holidays, sick leave. There's quite a lot to it. But yeah, it's worth it because it gives that flexibility again, that knowing if you can't do some visits, then you've got someone else that can. And we also have pet sitters in each area. So we've only have a small radius, so we don't expect anyone to go more than really 5 kilometers from where they live. So we have pet sitters situated in each different area, minimizing driving time. So they're not going to have to drive more than, kind of 5-7 minutes to get to a visit. And then when I couldn't, I felt like, it's kind of difficult to, be competitive in the marketplace, but trying to pay your staff a decent wage. And what people don't realize is you've got your Kiwi Saver, which is like your retirement things, paying that. You've got your accident compensation to pay on top. You've got your 8% holidays. Then you've got your public holidays to cover. You've got your sickness to cover. So it all really adds up. So it was like, how can we kind of not and then, of course, they've got to pay lots of tax as well on all of that. So one idea I came up with, instead of increasing their hourly wage, was to give them a petrol allowance instead. So for each visit, they would get paid a petrol allowance, and that's not tax deductible. So it's just, so things like that kind of really help keep staff as well. But I looked over our records, and I've taken on over 100 people in total.
Wow.
So it's a lot of time. But we wouldn't be here today without them.
Well, and to have that example set by your parents of you knew what you didn't want your business to look like, I think that's really powerful. And you admitted that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra money. It makes pricing and competitiveness on that end challenging, and can be sometimes, I'm sure, a headache to manage. Anytime you deal with people, you're dealing with relationships, and those are never easy, especially during stressful times. But as you also said, it's worth it because it gives you back that life. It gives you an ability to not be on 24/7, 365 days a year. It allows you to also have a life outside of this. And that really is invaluable at the end of the day.
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what are you working for? Yes, we love our job. We don't want to let people down. When it comes down to it, it's a job. It's, you don't want to be sacrificing time with your family and friends to keep, this customer happy. So it's kind of trying to keep your customers happy, but look after yourself at the same time as well. And because there's only one of you.
Yeah, and that's time. That's time we don't get back, right? We never get that time back.
Yeah, that's it. And then especially, if you've got some difficult customers that never seem to be happy with your service, you have to think, well, what is the point of this? If it's not working for you, then so you're best to get rid of. Let that customer go to one of the hobby pet sitters. Don't bet. You don't need to bend over backwards and sacrifice your own time to try and please some people that aren't pleasable.
What? Surely not. Surely there's. As pet sitters, we're there for the joyful moments and the heartbreaking ones too. When a client loses a pet, finding the right gift can be hard. That's where Pet Perennials comes in. They make it easy to send thoughtful, sympathy, and milestone gifts with a handwritten card, colorful gift wrap, and shipping fees included in the US and Canada. You choose the gift, they handle the rest. Sign up for a free Gift Perks business account and get discounted pricing with no fees or minimums. Learn more at petperennials.com today. I like how you framed that. At the end of the day, this is a job, right? This is something that we are committed to, but that doesn't mean we have to kill ourselves over it. That doesn't mean that we should sacrifice our lives for its sake. And so it is all about, how do I make this work for me? And what's the balance that I'm trying to maintain and the boundaries that I need in my life to live, right? And to show up refreshed and to not wake up dreading the day.
Yeah, and it's just knowing that you have people there if something is to happen to you, that it's not all dependent on you, and that takes a lot of pressure off as well, and we just remove some of that stress. So yes, it can be hugely stressful dealing with staff, and when they ring in at 8 o'clock in the morning and say they can't work today, and you've suddenly got to reschedule 20 dogs. That is stressful. But the reality is, on all the other days, they're out there walking all those dogs and keeping customers and dogs happy, and bringing in that income.
Right. No, we had an exact same thought of it was 4 years ago now. I was sick. I was really sick, and I remember having a day slammed of visits, and from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I think I was doing 20 visits that day. It was over Christmas, and I was barely functioning. And I'll never forget sitting in the basement of a client's house as their dog ate, with my head in my hands, going, I can't do this anymore. I cannot function. And if I go, the business would crumble, right? And so we need to have a business that's set up to take care of our family, right? That's there for them, and it will continue on. And really, that's when we decided, we've got to get help. Not really just to duplicate, but really to kind of replace me entirely, so that Megan nor myself are having to be out doing 100% of the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people, they are happy being solo sitters, and there's many times I've thought, if I had to start this all again, or sometimes I just want to get rid of all of my staff and let it just be me and the animals again. How did this happen? But it is just working with people who have different personalities, and you learn to manage those personalities, and appreciate your staff for the wonderful work that they do, and helping you, not having to do everything, right? Christmas time is just crazy. In fact, this year I made it a decision. We closed down over Christmas. Wow. It was the first time we'd ever done it, and I was like, this business suicide, potentially. But I was like, you know what? I've had it. Even though I've got a whole team to be able to do all these visits, at the end of the day, it comes down to, if someone's off sick, then I'm going to have to fill in probably, or, because they're only casual staff, if they decide they don't want to work Christmas Day, for instance, then they don't have to. So it's very difficult to have people commit to these, and people's plans change all the time, right? They weren't going away for Christmas. Now, a week beforehand, they are going away for Christmas. So now you've got to reschedule all of those visits, and you've already loaded up all your other sitters. And now, well, someone's got to do it when you're ready, So you end up taking on those extra ones, and like you say, working from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and just thinking, I want to quit. So, I can't do this anymore. And so it's not a good place to be in. And I've probably once a year, I do think I can't do this anymore. It's too stressful. But then I quickly get over that. And, I sometimes think, wouldn't it be nice to just stack shelves at a supermarket, not having all this pressure and stress, But then I think I wouldn't last very long, working, not even in a job like that, but just working for somebody else. I'd give it, a couple of months before it's like, I can't do this anymore. I quit. I'm going back to pet sitting.
Months. I give me hours. I don't know. I'd crumble real fast. I'd crumble fast. Well, yeah. Wendy, one thing that I know on your website, you've got this phrase, and I really like it. You talk about enhancing a client's life, and I wanted you to talk about kind of how you do that and what that looks like when you're working with them.
So basically, we were looking at doing a bit of rebranding, and it's like, what's the kind of phrase we can come up with, or a tagline, to really encompass what we're about and what we can do for the pets in our care. So basically, while the owners are at work or away, the pets don't have to be miserable or bored at home. We provide dogs with either a loving family to stay with while the owners are on holiday, or, we can get them out, like I say, on the doggy days out, providing them with lots of fun and frolics with friends. And just, the owners just love seeing, the photos, and while they're at work or whatever, or on holiday, they get to see their pet having a great time too. Cats, they don't have to go to kitty jail, they can stay in the comfort of their own home, being pampered, and, used to their normal routines as well, as closely as possible. And of course, then we've got the guinea pigs, the budgies, and rabbits that can come and stay with us, in a nice setting where they've got the companionship of other animals and people as well. So, so we really feel like we can, add to the pet's life and to our customers.
Yeah, and I will say I absolutely love the landing page photo for your website with those dogs on the beach. I'm super jealous, by the way. That is such a cool photo. Wendy, I was like, oh, I want to be there immediately. But I love how you phrase that, as far as it's something that you get to do, and it's something that you can provide. Right? You allow that dog, that cat, that guinea pig, that pet to have an amazing life. Not saying that a life with their owner is not good, but it's really saying we can help you take this to the next level. Right? We can really elevate this, add that time out, add fun, adventure, in a safe and professional manner. And that just directly links back to how people, like we said, how people make those purchasing decisions. Pet owners want the best for their pets. They want to give them experiences and make sure that they have a good life. And so leaning right into that and going, yeah, that's what we do. You want to know what, Pet Sitters Nelson is all about? It's that. It's enhancing. It's making your life, your life and your pet's life the best it can be. And I really love that, and how it hits exactly on that point, and that way that people think about their pets and what they're looking for.
Thank you. Yes, it's that, and guilt-free.
Yeah.
It's guilt-free for the owners. They don't have to be thinking, oh, I hope Fred's doing okay and he's not barking away and he's all on his own, and or they see the dog on the pet cam that's chewing a hole in the wall. Because the owners left them all day. There's options out there, and we can help with those situations. The dogs that don't like being left alone, or just if they want to get out and be more social, have more friends, because we do get some dogs that are not that well socialized. And if we get them early enough, we can really work on that. And there's nothing more rewarding than sending the photos of people's dogs with another dog, and that was once scared of dogs or something like that. Now all of a sudden, they just love being part of a pack, and they've got all their little friends and their favorites.
Yeah, you're right. It's a gift to that owner, to that pet, right? Really making that life a lot better. So you've been in business for coming up on 21 years, over 20 years now, of doing this. I was curious, Wendy, what's maybe one of your hardest lessons that you've had to learn?
Oh, well, that would have to be, I guess, getting sick last year would be my hardest lesson. I basically was diagnosed with breast cancer, and things kind of really took a turn for the worse as I was battling with how I dealt with that. What did that look like for my business? And it was really a case of, I remember, so after I had to do chemotherapy, and after one round of chemo, several days later, I ended up in hospital, and basically it nearly killed me. And I remember being in that hospital bed thinking, what have I done with, working like I have been doing, trying to create this business to look after everybody else, and I've completely neglected my own health. I thought that I was fit and healthy, and obviously I wasn't. I was always under a lot of stress and pressure. And I guess I turned to alcohol as well to help me through those, the long days, the stressful day. It's nice. And it's also kind of a New Zealand culture. You have a beer or a wine at the end of the day after a hard day's work. But it got to be a little bit too regular. And so I realized that, after this diagnosis and having to reevaluate my life, I was like, you know what, I'm actually quite dependent on alcohol. That's not good. It's not good for your body. And, and the stress is a killer at the end of the day. So I really learned to take a step back. Like I say, closing the business down over Christmas, it was a crucial thing for me to do, to spend time with my family. I've got a 5-year-old son. I want to be around for the long haul for him, So that was a real wake-up call. And it was like, you know what? Business is business. It's not it shouldn't be your whole life. You gotta have that separation. It's crucial.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well with that, Wendy, and I know that's a lot that's on your plate.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very challenging time, and actually, I remember being in the hospital bed with my husband on the phone to my admin person, trying to tell her all the things that she needed to do that I couldn't do. So I was literally still working while I was hooked up to all these machines. And I also remember thinking, I trained her up, as an assistant manager to do all the bits that I didn't think I'd be able to do, to manage the day-to-day operations. I hadn't trained her up in payroll and all of that side of things. I was like, why didn't I do that? Because now I've got to try and, get all that side of things sorted while I'm here and the doctor's telling me I need to stop working right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, big learning experience.
Well, it really does put everything into stark perspective, right? Of going, what is important? At the end of the day, what is important? What am I willing to stress over or not stress over? And it does put that all into perspective of going, man, I was stressed over the drive time from this visit to that visit that kept me up for a couple of days, and now, right, what am I stressed over? My own life, right? It really does help. It puts that into going, there are important things in the world and there are not important things, and sometimes it takes us a little bit to find that out.
Yeah, I like one thing I try and do is, if I'm kind of in a stressful situation, and then I kind of remind myself, will this matter in a year's time? No. Oh, let's forget it. It's not a major. It's not going to matter. I will not remember this in a year's time. So therefore, it's not a major. Stop stressing about it. Relax a bit, take a breathe. So definitely kind of trying to minimize my stress levels. I don't ever want to be back how I was, working crazy hours, always filling in for people if they were sick. Yes, it still happens. I do have to do that. But again, it's getting more people on board that can be available if needed, because it's always, everyone's sick at the same time, especially, after COVID, things just went completely crazy there, and no one can go and work now if they've got a bit of a runny nose, and you'll have to stay at home. And I'm like, you're working with dogs, you don't even really associate with people too much.
Right.
You can get out there, you're fine, harden up. But unfortunately, and that's what we're like as business owners, right? Because we're out there doing it. We don't have many sick days.
Right.
If we're sick, we're really bad. Generally, we're out there just carrying on.
Just doing our thing. How is your diagnosis now, Wendy?
Yeah, so good, thank you. So yes, I had surgery. I decided not to do any more chemo
Okay.
for obvious reasons. Um, and now I'm just looking forward to the future.
Sure.
And last year was, I never imagined at my age getting a diagnosis like that. It was shocking. And for a long time, I was in a really dark place of despair. And, my life's over. The doctors give you all this bad news and life expectancy and all this. And that really, words have power, right? Life and death are in the power of the tongue. And when words are spoken over you from like a medical professional, it's not good, and they sink down deep, right? And then I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? No one knows what is ahead of them. My days aren't any more numbered than anybody else's. And as soon as I adopted that belief, things started changing. I was like, no, I'm looking forward to the future. I've got an amazing family, an amazing business. I'm going to make sure that, I eat even better. I train, do strength training. I'm going to just be the best version of myself. I'm not going to drink alcohol anymore. I'm just going to do everything that's in my power to lead a healthier life. I'm going to reduce that stress level. I'm not going to be working 7 days a week. I have a team around me that's more than capable of taking over things when I need them to, and they did a fantastic job. Everyone's replaceable, including the boss. There was people that they just stepped up and they helped run the business as I would have. So
I love
the future's looking good.
I love that, and I'm super excited, and it's really good to hear that, and where you're headed with your business and how you have that set up. I really am really thankful for your time today, Wendy, sharing us with your journey, and giving us encouragement to grab hold of what matters and build a life around that, and not waste time with other stuff. And I just think that that's such an important lesson that more of us, myself included, need to remember and actually take advantage of. For those who want to follow along with you, reach out, get in touch, and see all the cool stuff that you're doing. Wendy, how best can they do that?
Sure. So our website is petsittersnz.co.nz. That's the best way to contact us, or we do have our Facebook page as well, Pet Sitters NZ. And you see lots of photos of what we're doing out and about with the animals there. And I'm sure lots of you have got many, many photos yourself of all the different pets you may not need to see anymore. But no, hopefully, you might be able to get some inspiration or some ideas about how possibly you could implement other services or grow your client base to, or make that leap and take on that staff member to help you out, to share the load.
Yeah. Well, I've had your website pulled up this entire conversation, and I've just been it's been mesmerizing to see all those dogs pulled up over here, looking at me on the beach. I'm again immeasurably jealous. And Wendy, again, I am so thankful for your time today and coming on and sharing with us. It's been an immense pleasure and honor, and I'm very thankful for you. And thank you for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great to talk with you, and and a privilege. So thank you very much.
Business is business. It shouldn't be your whole life. As an entrepreneur and small business owner, this is certainly hard to hear. We usually quit a 9 to 5 to then work 24/7. We eat, sleep, breathe, think about, dream about, have fears about our business. It's the only thing many times we can even conceive of in any given day at any given moment. And yet, my conversation with Wendy was a wonderful reminder of the importance that we are our whole selves. We are not just a business. We're not just a business owner. We're a friend to people. We may be a spouse to someone, a father, a mother. We may have all of these other aspects to us, interests, hobbies, desires, things that we want to do. And those are equally, and if not more so, important than the business. Running a sustainable business means taking care of ourselves and seeing ourselves as worth it. We want to thank our sponsors today, our friends at Time to Pet and Pet Perennials, for making this show possible. And we really want to thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll be back again soon.